Okay, Sadi Gimel. Sadi Gimel is one large sif, bunch of interesting pieces of the Ramah. The basic take home from Sadi Gimel, aside for the other dinim, is the basic rule of Ben Yaimai versus Eina Ben Yaimai. And this is, as we mentioned, probably one of the largest, I don't want to call it heterim, but avenues of kula, is that when someone calls, the question is it a ben yamer or not? The kadir shabishal basar, lo yavashal b'chalav, then bishwa b'toich meis leis, then it's aser b'naisin tam. B'naisin tam means what? The classical machlekes, Sfardim and Ashkenazim that we've had so many times. Whether naisim tam means simply that it is you give it to the kfela to taste, or whether naisin tam means more notably that you need shishim, as the Ramah says, v'sarach l'shayer kol hakadera, that you are mishayer shishim. So that's if it's within 24 hours. Once it's without or not within 24 hours in English, avalim shah meis leis kodim shisha ba, then havali naisim tam lifgam umutter hatafshil. So din number one is always going to be the tafshil, which we've mentioned many times. Usually when the shayla comes in, they're not even asking about the tafshil. Usually the tafshil is already in the garbage, and they just want to know what's the story with the pot. But lemaisa, the halacha is, if it's not within 24 hours, then what is the halacha? The halacha is that it is mutter. Now, the real question is, how are you mishayer shishim? That's the real question, as Olam had a little taste of this on Friday, trying to be Mishayer Shishim. Sometimes it's slightly complicated. And the detail here, which doesn't really come up over here so much, where is it that says that you need Shir Hamidumah? That you don't need the shir of the whole thing, that when you have a mixture, where is it? No, the Ramah here doesn't say it. Where does he say it? Where does he say it? No, it's Ramah somewhere. Yeah, sure. That when you have a mixture, whenever you're mishayir the mixture, meaning, for example, let's just give us our simple case. We have a cholent. Yeah, we made a cholent on Shabbos. Wonderful. And Motzei Shabbos, after you emptied out your cholent, you decided, let's make soup. And you put cheese in your soup. So within 24 hours, you put in cheese. So the question is, it's a big problem. But the Ramah, so according to the Machaber, what do? You would give it to a kfela. Do you taste the meat? According to the Ramah, you have to be mishayer. It's in Sadichas. You have to be mishayer. Do you have shishim? Shishim of what? Of what? So the Ramah said, kineged kol ha kedera. Kol ha kedera. However, that's only if the whole item that was cooked was only meat. If the item was cooked was a mixture of meat and other items, then there's no reason to assume that the meat went into the whole pot. So therefore, if you have a cholent and what quantity of your pot of the cholent was the meat? I don't know, give me a quantity. Again, within the very good, the last usage, which is we're going to come back to that at the end if we talk about it. I mean, we all know this already. That we have the shitas over here that it reawakens previous ben yaimais, but we of course don't go with that. So, how much meat was used? I don't know. 20% of the whole cholent is meat. How much meat is in a cholent? 20%? No. What's a normal number? Probably even less. Okay, it depends. You're right. There's no such thing. It could be you put in one shtick meat in the whole cholent. So if you put in one shtick meat, so even though we know that normally, are you going to have shishim? The answer is no, because you're never going to have shishim in the contents of the whole pot. But if you don't need the whole pot, why don't you need the whole pot? Because the meat was only a percentage of that which you cooked. Let's say it was a tenth. So then you only need that percentage of the pot to be mivato, which would be a tenth of the pot. Now, there still is a big issue over here, because how big is the pot to be mivato? Like, when you do your little displacement example with a cup, it's all very simple and dandy. But now, if you actually want to figure out what is the quantity of a pot, it's not so simple to figure out the surface area and the thickness and all these issues. It's really not so simple. No, because that is the din that we don't know. Because we don't know, we have to assume it went into the whole pot. But you don't have to assume that it went into more than of the whole mixture was. No, because again, that's the whole din of the Ramah. The whole din of the Ramah is Sarach L'Shaya. The Ramah doesn't say neged what you cooked. It's neged kol kedera. Why kol kedera? Because whatever we cook, we assume is spreads around the whole kedera. But if the maximum was only a tenth of the dish, then it's never going to go more than that. No, but not the size of the meat. Keneged the kedera. Everything comes correct. A tenth of the kedera. Now.
If you had an ounce of meat, right? So you have an ounce of meat. You have an ounce of meat.
No. Again. Let's just use rough numbers. Let's say my kedera is 100 ounces, which we have no way of knowing. But let's just pretend 100 ounces. And now let's say, so therefore, if I cook in my kedera just meat, I had a pot of just meat, nothing else, just meat and meat and meat. Thank you very much. How much would I have to be mishayer? How much would I have to be mevatel slicha? 100 ounces, which we know is never possible, basically. Instead, what did the Shach say? The Shach said, unless you have mateches, right? Where is it, Shach? Where is it? No? Someone read me the Lashon. Oh, go cold which we know never happens. Okay, but now let's say I didn't have 100 ounces of meat. I had a tenth of what I cooked is meat. Now that meat might have only been 1 ounce of meat, but I'm gonna have to be mevatel 10 ounces because it's a tenth of the whole quantity. That goes with the whole kedera. I don't understand. What? Because we don't know the exact quantity. So we know the quantity in relationship to the whole dish, but we still can't know how much of it went in. No, it's something not working here. I mean, this is really, we don't learn this yet. We don't. I'm again. All good. We went too far. All I wanted to point out, and you're all asking a very good question. We have to get to this. Is, I believe, in Sadi Ches Daled. You're asking a very good question. But the what is Ramah being Machadesh saying Kol HaKedera? Yes?
So outside the Ches, it just means no matter how much meat you have to try the whole potato.
Correct. But inside the Ches Daled, let's read it together. Again, all I really wanted to point out is that this whole din is only if it's only meat. But once you're going to have a quantity of other things in there, then you're going to have end of Daled. Neged kulay v'chein la'ilam. Again, let's wait for there. I think we're having a language barrier in our question over here, and therefore let's leave the numbers out. And I think this is the one part that I wanted to point out is the ha'ara of the Ramah. I think Moshe, I think what you're saying is correct. I think we just went too far with the example. Avad, if you know precisely what you had, then it's not going to be the question. The question always is, you don't know precisely what you had, therefore you have to be Meshayar Keneged Kuloi. But if you know one thing is, you know it wasn't all meat, then you could bump it down and be Meshayar Keneged the percentage of the meat. That was the hard that we're pointing out, which when we get to Sadi Ches, we'll appreciate more. All we're saying is that there are relevances of Shishim. You finish Sadi Gimel Aleph and you say Shishim Ever Nagea, you say no. Why no? Because the Shach taught me that I'm never going to have 60 times the content of the pot in Koltov. Lemaisa, we're just pointing out in the average case where you have, not average, no such thing, but you have, let's say, a vegetable soup, they threw a piece of meat in, you have a chunk, they threw one piece of meat in, you could very well have Shishim. This is all Ben Yomi. So far, we're only Ben Yomi on the actual food. That is din number 1. And now we continue. The Shach over here in Sifkat and Aleph says that what happens, do you do a kama bishul b'toich meis leis is the end of the Shach. Bishul cholav that right. Let's the end of the Shach is Rabbi Katzman, what you were pointing out before. Is that, or does it reawaken the bleeder or not? Right? That's what the Shach at the end of Aleph brings out. He says, you don't know how much was ever cooked in this pot. You know which was cooked within the last 24 hours. That which was earlier is Naisam Lefgam, Afilu Bishal Basar, B'tech Beislaïs, Bishal Basar Yishain, Ein Sarch Shishim Neged Basar Hasheni. So what is the Shach coming to answer? So the Gilyer Marsha over here speaks out that what the Shach is coming to explain is that the second cooking should reawaken and have the first cooking within it, because it's all within 24 hours. He wants to say, and this comes from the Rambam. Excuse me. The Shach is coming to answer that if on Sunday I cook 10 ounces and on Monday I cook 5 ounces, why are we only worried about 5 ounces? It should go back to the 10 ounces of Sunday, because it's within 24 hours, it should reawaken and therefore it should move weiter. And the Shach says no. Why not? So we didn't really speak, unfortunately, about the end of Sadi Beis, but the Gilyer Marsha says this comes from where? Sadi Beis Sif Ches. A beautiful dik. If you look at the Gilyer Marsha, he says in Sadi Beis Ches, that which the Ramah says, to boy shishim neged hachalav shebimachvas. Why did the Ramah over there say the chalav in the machvas? Why did the Ramah there just say you need shishim kineged the machvas? Sarach leimar my deloy sarach shishim gan neged machvas. Humishom is why? Because we're only worried about the most recent item to be cooked in the pot. And therefore, you do not have to be mevatel the whole machvas. The chalav in the machvas is enough, and that's the same thing that the shachir is saying. They only have to be mevatel that which is cooked within 24 hours. Very good. That's a quick shout out to Sadi Bey's Sif Ches. Now we continue, and that is the food. Okay, so the food I think is very simple. But the question, of course, comes is what about the pat? Avala kadira, oster lavashal ba loy basar veloy chalav. Says the Ramah, aval shar devarim is mutter. Why is it aser to cook loy bashal v'loy chalav? We all know this. This is called the gezira ben yanmai atu einoi ben yoimai. Says the Ramah, but pariv is no gezira. Says the Ramah, it's all good. The goin in hay speaks out, like we just said, like the Ramah. The goin goes with the Ramah, and the goin says that you want to put in pariv is no problem. What's the reason it's no problem? Because ein akadera belua meiser basar ve chalav. Again, we're talking about a case. I don't know if I prefaced the words of the Ramah that we're talking about a case where it is einoi ben yoimai. If it's einoi ben yoimai, then what's the belia in the pot? The belia is heter. The belia is not iser. The belia is just confused. We have a confused belia of basar v'chalav, and that's the reason why be'etzem, what's your pot right now? Your pot's nothing. Your pot had a dead belia of milchiks, and then you have a dead belia of fleshik. So what should you do right now? I don't know. Flip a coin and do whatever you want. We have a gezerah. We don't let you do whatever you want, says the Ramah. But cook, parv, explains the gain very simply, only because it's not below me'isr, basar v'chal, which just reminds us that, of course, if this was within 24 hours, this whole shiloh wouldn't begin. If it's within 24 hours, then there's actual isser in the pot. Just like the food would have to be discarded, the pot itself would have a massive problem. And therefore, that's the Ramah. The question is, do we go with this Ramah? Do we go with this Ramah? So, of course, you also the Shach, very good. And the Shach says, as we've seen, the theme of Basar V'chalav is never paskin until you finish. The Shach reminds us that in Sif Gimel, says the Shach, look at Siman Sadi Dalid, over there in Sif Hey, and we learn over there, Kosav Harav Dinoya Gimles or Hakli She'enoi Ben Yomai Afilu Lishar Dvarim. The Shach says, you know how far this goes? Afilu b'shenot chava boy rak kaf ben Yomai. This is an extreme din, and you should remember this Shach. So when we get to Sadi Dalid, we remember this, because the Shach says, and the case of the Shach, which is from Sadi Dalid, is actually a pretty common case, is you stir with the wrong utensil. But the utensil was ben Yaimai. So now, this kama pratim we're going to have to deal with. Often, maybe you will have bittul. You have to realize, if I'm cooking my fleshig chalent and I take my ben yoy, my milchig spoon. So first of all, why was my spoon ben yoy milchig? You got to make sure it was actually ben yoy milchig to use the milk. How was he used with milk? What did he use it for? Right. So if you used it to stir your coffee, that was already a klisheni, and then went in the milk, and then went in the spoon. Could be there's nothing to talk about. We have to get there. It's true. It's yatzaledis, but I don't know what's that called. A klisheni, a klishlishi, a chvaisnish. But let's say it was used to alaish. You stirred your I don't know your mac and cheese. What? Yeah, your mac and cheese on the flame or your egg and cheese on the flame with that spoon. It's a kav ben yoimai that you stuck into your chalm. So first of all, we have to handle bittel. We have to handle bittel off. Yeah, you have to handle that the cheese might not have cheese in it. Very good. But it says the shach over there, we're going to learn that it's going to aser. That the fact that you used the wrong gender within a ben yoimai is going to aser the pot. So too, and you're going to have to kasher it. So too by us, you're not going to be allowed to use it for, you're not going to be allowed to use it. However, are there ever cases that we're going to be makel? The answer is yes, of course. If the Ramah is makel, then of course we have to realize this is a me'ikr hadin. You could use this pot for parv. What would be a case that would be makel me'ikr hadin? Erev Shabbos. Erev Shabbos is 2 hours for Shabbos, and you want to, I don't know, warm up a food. You want to make a parv dish, and you just finished trafing up your pot. Well, not really, because it was Lachar Ben Yomai. So what do you do right now? Then you're allowed to use such a pot. I think there's a Chachmas Adam on this. This is whatever. What? No, Parav. Oh, very good. Now, will we ever be Makel that L'chayra now? Of course, again. The Ramah was Makel for Parav. The Goyin was Makel for Parav. The Shach came along and the Shach said, you forgot a Ramah. The Ramah in Sadi Dalid says Ramachmir, meaning the Ramah is not being, it's not really a stira in Ramah. The Ramah is saying Noihagin, the minog is lesser, meaning the Ramah in Sadi Dalid is really concurring with our Ramah that make her in its mutter. Aber the minog is thus that we're machmir. If you want to know if the goyin is masking to the minog, that's a good question. Wait for Sadi Dalid and we have to, what? You have to wait for Sadidal to see if the Goyin is masking. We're just pointing out that there is an Ikra Adin here. The minig, of course, is to be machmir. Will we ever be Semich an Ikra Adin? The answer is yes, b'shatzatchak, like an Erev Shabbos. The Ramah concludes with the fascinating Chomra B'leitam, the fascinating, you see from the Ramah, the Koyach of a minog that the Ramah completely doesn't understand, but yet is a minog nonetheless, and therefore the Ramah wants to be machmir. The Taz really concurs with the minog, meaning the Taz says that the Ramah chumrah is going to be on a cone shaped, is what we'll call it, a cover that is narrow. That's where the Ramah will be nageya. What do you mean? Yeah, whatever. I mean, he's explaining. No. That's a hagufa. That's what the Taz says. Taz says it's a chumrah with yeta. That's what he. The Ramah didn't understand. The Taz says it's talking about a different case in a chanami. So the Taz is machmir, but it comes out lefi the Taz in our pot covers. Do we have anything to worry about? The answer is no, because we don't have in general pot covers. We can come up with some unique cases where it would be nageya. Someone wanted to mention maybe a teapot. A teapot, again, I don't know why you're flishing milk is a flashing teapot, but teapot sometimes has like that coney top thing. I was thinking a pressure cooker has, that little spigot area where things move. There could be covers. The Instant Pot that people like to use has, different things in the cover. So there could be scenarios, but like you're saying, in the world of the Taz, it comes out that it could even be Mikra Adin. But we, Be'etzem, go with the Shach, that Lamaisa on our covers, we are Makel, and the simple reason is why. The simple reason is because our covers are clean. Our covers are all clean, and this whole thing really begins when there are some dirty parts. Even in the world of the Taz, I'm saying cases of pressure cookers and things in that. Lamaisa, look at the cover. It's true, they might be difficult to clean, but I don't know if you throw it in the dishwasher. Could be the dishwasher could clean things which are even difficult to clean. There's a sidebar sugya over here. Machlikis Taz and Shach. How much to be mevatel? Stam, the Taz says Shishim, the Shach says Shishim, Pamim, Shishim, Ve'echad. Comes along, and then we continue in the Ramah. And now basically the rest of the Ramah is what happens when you mix up your pot covers, meaning your pot, your top and bottom pot. So there are two cases which are easy, which are the first two cases, is if they're both hot, or if the bottom is hot, then everything is ulcer. And the reason is Tata Gavar, and therefore it's going to be a problem. Again, the case we're talking about is you're cooking your chicken soup and you take your milchig, your cover, and you put it on top. Everything is going to be a problem. The one case which is more confusing is what about when the top is hot and the bottom is cold? In such a scenario, what are we going to say? We're going to say tata gava or be'etzem, and therefore there shouldn't be a problem. Shouldn't be a problem. Comes along the shach says, you're right. But there's a balbatisha problem, is that if the top is hot, then what? Then there's some moisture on the top, and therefore we have to be worried that the moisture might have dripped into the food, might have dripped onto the pot. This will be called iroi shenifsek hakiluach. This is where we come on to this machlekes that Isser v'heter is mikol, the shari dura is machmir, and that's really where it ends. I don't really know if you're ever going to have this case of your boiling hot pot on a cold thing. I don't know if we're ever going to have such a case. It's also, again, nachamol, it's only going to aser k'tei klipa, which means it's only going to aser the food k'tei klipa. If you can think of a klipa, if you can't think of a klipa, the food is going to be mutter. Just to end off, there's really just one Pri Megadim, which it should be required reading, but we're going to move on to Sadi Dalid. Is the Pri Megadim over here speaks about what he calls mekusher. Mekusher. If you see the Pri Megadim, it's in Aleph over here, and the Pri Megadim is dealing with it's one of these like real bas v'cholav dika shailos. How do you dan the blia as it comes in and as it comes out of the pot? That basically, to try to see this in a simplistic manner, that why don't we say that every dot of the opposite gender that comes out of the wall of the pot should continuously aser and thereby negate there ever being shishim, because every dot that comes out has chanan, and therefore the whole first few minutes that we were discussing, do you have shishim, do you not have shishim? When it's a ben yaimik, it's true there's a live blia, but it should be mavatalid. Frak the Pri Megadim, this should never happen, because again, if I am a milchig ben yoimai pot, that means that there's milk in the wall of the pot. If I now go and I put meat in that thing, it shouldn't make a difference the quantity, because the moment one dot comes out, that becomes chanan, it becomes nevela shol bi'aser. So the Pri Megadim is machadish over here, that the reason why we don't have to worry about this, he calls it that it's all mikusher. He says that we're dealing with a keli, the way that you dan up a keli is that it's all connected one to another, and because it's all connected one to another, therefore we dan it all as one. This is more of a limo type of thing that we just have to keep in mind, that any time we're donning up a pot, that we view it all as one entity, whereas when it comes to food, it would not necessarily be the same. Just to end off with Yena Rashba, which is very interesting, because we have this incredible shach, that spilled enough ink here to I don't know, definitely enough ink. And the shach is fire, mamish fire, that we go with this Rashba, Barur, Mukhrach, MS, Ein Safek, and the shach wants to schlep Alo Rishainim on his team. Not only is he makel sometimes, okay, Epis, you'll be Saimich on a sheet over here. He pulls everyone. Mamish, if he would have ended over there, then if Hevesi and he goes another 20 lines, and mine is 20 lines because it's the big lines, you get the small lines, it's like 50 lines. He goes and he says, so, one would have thought, after all of that is said and done, you would think that we go with the shach. Lemaisa, we don't. Why is a fascinating question. The latter poskim only use such as a tziruf. And obviously this would have been a very, very big deal, because what's going on over here is you're cooking pariv in the pot, and the pariv is kashering up the pot. And if you're kashering up the pot, it would sound like then, you should never have an issue in life. Every time you make a pot of noodles in your milchik pot, now, okay, so long your milchik pot, it just kashered it. It sounds absolutely fascinating. The 1 second, just one more detail is how much, right? Because in the middle of this whole yam of Nakudas Kesef, we bring down that it has to be kishir bishul arishin. That it only is going to work if you have as much veggies as, I shouldn't say as much veggies. If you have kishir bishul arishin, that's what the Taz goes with. Now the you're saying the shach.
That's what he's arguing on. No, he's a bunch of like 6 other reasons that.
The Taz is making it sound like it's like you just regular kasher.
Yeah, excuse me. No. Good. No. So that's what I wanted to point out. Excuse me. Even in the Taz, what does Kishir Bishul Rishon mean? So I think when you read the Taz, you think, like, I don't want to call the Prima Garden that normal, but what the brain would think is it means in quantity. It means in quantity. It means if I had 6 ounces, it means you have to cook 6 ounces. The Prima Garden says not that way. He says it's in time.
I'll go crazy last week.
Maybe whatever. The Prima Garden says in time. It's fascinating because it's just fascinating. What should I tell you? Yeah, Mashka. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. Lamaisa Paiskin. See if you want to know when they use it as a tziruf. You're asking a good question. Something that we have to come back to. We definitely come back to. But there is such a concept to use as a tziruf. And just to mention, it's a beautiful sushtel. I heard for a Reisman, he wanted to say that this bisoid is the Tazin Aleph in the Bala Itter. It's a fascinating thing to put the two things together. The Taz Aleph says the Bala Itter says that Kli Cheres Midaraisa could be kashered. Zok the Taz, Zok the Itter Rishain, that every time you cook something else in that pot, whatever the word is, purges. Thank you. I had a better word, but that's a good word also. It purges the previous taste, and everything's good. Now, the reason Zok the Itter, there'd be no gzeira. Why would there be no gzeira? Because it would ruin the pot. They're not going to make gzeira in such a scenario. So, be'etzem, the Rashba, B'Yisoid is the same ideology as the Itter. Ideology. Now, of course, it's not the same thing because the Itter is only by the whatever. Yeah. He makes this sushel. It's a chavzas, beautiful. Good. I didn't see the chavzas. I heard it for a reason. Beautiful. It's saying it's chavzas. It makes so much sense. So it passes that it came from somewhere earlier. In London, just to think about it, it means that what we're doing is we're allowing ladder cookings, which l'chayr and svara make a lot of sense, especially when we don't know anything about a gullah. So we'll just take whatever we're taught. That we're allowed ladder cookings, not cookies, to nullify that which happened previously. L'chayr. There's the Rashba, there's this Itter, Lamaisa, with the Shach, and everything said and done. For some reason, the latter Paiskim did not take this on, and this is a makom that we definitely will have to come back to, B'siyata Dishmaya.